If you have a weak mind, you should probably close this video right now. There's a razor-thin line between seducing and manipulating a woman, but there exists a method so dark, so twisted, that it doesn't just cross the line, it shatters it completely. What I'm about to teach you today is emotional kidnapping, a psychological trap designed to make a woman obsess over you without ever knowing why. It's the most unethical strategy I've ever come across. And yet it works, because it bypasses her logic and goes straight to her emotional core. You were warned. This is not for men who need to feel morally righteous, but if you're ready to understand how real power works in the realm of attraction, if you want to discover how to own a woman's thoughts, not just her attention, then stay, watch till the end. And if this kind of content speaks to the dark curiosity inside you, hit the like button and check the ultimate guide I left in the comments. Let's get to the heart of it. When people talk about dating strategies, pickup tricks, seduction techniques, they're usually referring to surface-level games, little behaviors, jokes, text templates, all meant to charm. But there's a darker side to attraction. A place most men fear to explore. A realm where attraction isn't something you inspire, it's something you force, silently. A type of manipulation so subtle, so invisible, that she'll swear it was her own choice. That's what we're diving into. For me, seduction and manipulation aren't opposites. They are cousins, because at the core of both lies a single truth. She wants to be taken by someone who knows how. She wants to feel chosen, desired, overwhelmed, but in a way that seems like it happened organically. The right kind of manipulation doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like magic. Sometimes what begins as innocent flirting can evolve into something far more intense, a psychological grip, an obsession. And this is exactly what we're building. Not by force, not by convincing, but by reprogramming her mind from the inside out. This strategy is called emotional kidnapping with implicit control. Before I break it down, let me make one thing clear. I don't care how you use this knowledge, but please, don't use it to be cruel. Use it to understand the game you're already in, because whether you realize it or not, this is happening to people every day. Especially women, especially in emotionally charged encounters. The only difference is some people do it by accident, others do it by design. Here's what you need to understand. People don't fall in love with you because you make sense. They don't get attached because you tick every box or say all the right words. They fall for you because of how they feel when you're around. More precisely, they fall for the story they start telling themselves when they're near you. Most men think their job is to entertain, impress, or persuade. That's what makes them forgettable. Because when you're busy trying to give her an experience, she holds the frame. She decides what it means. But when you can spark an emotional reaction in her without explaining yourself, without guiding her how to feel, then something strange happens. Her mind starts looking for meaning. And guess who she links those feelings to? You. Even if you weren't the direct cause. If she felt excited, intrigued, nervous, or safe, and you were there, her brain connects those feelings to you. Think of it like this. The brain is a pattern-making machine, and when an emotion hits, the mind rushes to assign meaning. So if she's in your presence and suddenly feels a wave of vulnerability or anticipation, boom. You become the emotional anchor. That's the first step of emotional kidnapping. Now comes the second layer, implicit control. This is where the strategy becomes almost Machiavellian. You don't command, you don't instruct, you don't beg for validation, you don't even try to lead. You simply exist with unshakable calm. You act like someone who already knows how the story ends. You're not trying to control anything, and that's why you control everything. That kind of silent dominance is magnetic. Not because you bark orders or play alpha, but because your inner stillness makes her feel like you see through her. Like you know something about her that she hasn't even admitted to herself. She starts to follow your lead, not because she's aware of it, but because emotional strength is gravity. And when you're centered, when your presence is firm and non-reactive, she falls into orbit. Don't aim to impress her. Don't even aim to persuade her. Guide her internal state. Influence how she feels in your presence, and do it without making it obvious. Once you achieve this, her attraction won't feel like a choice. It will feel like chemistry. But it's not chemistry. It's design. Control disguised as coincidence. And when you've nailed that, every move you make becomes a continuation of the emotional architecture you've built. You're not chasing her. You're giving her the chance to realize how good she feels around you. Once she associates those feelings with you, she won't be able to explain why she keeps thinking about you. She just will. Let me give you a warning here. Most guys screw this up the moment they see a reaction. A blush, a laugh, a curious glance. They jump on it like desperate dogs, trying to extract more. They lean in, they compliment, they escalate. But that ruins it. It signals need. It says, "I'm desperate for your approval." A smarter move? Let her sit in it. Say something that flips the emotional script. Something that catches her off guard, then let the silence do the heavy lifting. Example. You're talking to her and she's acting polite, distant, bored. Instead of matching her low energy or trying to entertain her, you drop a line like, "You talk like someone who pretends not to care, but deep down, you probably care way too much." Then pause. Say nothing more. Just let it float. She might laugh. She might frown. She might narrow her eyes and ask, "Why would you say that?" It doesn't matter. That's a reaction. That's state change. And that's your win. Here's the twist. After you get that emotional shift, don't chase it. Stay calm. Change the topic. Go on like nothing happened. Why? Because now her mind starts looping. Why did I feel that? What was that about? Was it him? Was it me? Who is this guy? And that's where the obsession begins. The next move is to anchor that emotion to you, not by claiming credit or bragging, but by lightly branding the moment. Let's say you teased her and she laughed a little too loud. You look at her for a second and say, "That laugh, I like that one." Then move on. No explanation. No follow-up. What you've done there is taken the peak emotional moment and left your fingerprint on it. Now, every time she remembers how she felt, her body links it to you. Not because of what you said, but because you were there, you noticed, and you didn't beg for more. This is the blueprint of implicit dominance, and it separates the average guy from the one who understands emotional strategy. You don't shout. You don't show off. You just operate with the confidence of someone who's not trying to win her, because you've already become the prize in her subconscious. What happens next is what I call the emotional anchoring phase. And this is where things move from chemistry to architecture. Because when a woman feels something intense, joy, shame, nervousness, warmth, her mind automatically tries to find a source. The brain hates unexplained feelings. It wants to label, categorize, understand. So if you're the closest, most present element in that moment, guess what? You become the label. Even if you weren't the cause, her mind locks that emotional imprint onto you. That's why so many people fall for the wrong person, someone toxic, someone unreliable. It's because they felt something real, something visceral, and their brain decided the person nearby must be the reason. This isn't logic. This is human psychology, and when you understand it, you stop trying to impress her and start becoming her internal reference point. Your job isn't to create more emotional moments. That's already happened. Your job is to position yourself quietly, subtly, as the container for those emotions. And you do that by staying in the moment without over-explaining it. If you tease her and she laughs, Don't milk it. Don't double down. Let her sit in the glow of that feeling. And then, with just a look or a quiet phrase, leave your mark. Say something like, "That spark in your eye? Don't lose it." Then move on. She won't forget it, not because it was poetic, but because it happened when her guard was down. You were there. You noticed. You didn't try to own it. That's how anchors are placed. Quietly, respectfully, but unmistakably. And now, the third layer, what I call implicit control through presence. This is the phase that divides the ordinary from the ones who truly understand the deeper game. This isn't about telling her what to do. It's not even about guiding her behavior. It's about becoming such a grounded presence that she feels drawn to follow your energy without realizing it. You're not louder. You're not more dominant. You're just unshakably calm, present, rooted in your reality. And when a woman feels emotionally chaotic, uncertain, or vulnerable, even slightly, that stillness becomes magnetic. She begins to look to you for cues without being aware of it. She mirrors your tone, your pace, your rhythm. Her nervous system regulates to yours. But here's the catch. You can't fake this. If your presence is an act, if it's something you're performing just to get a reaction, she'll feel it. It'll feel forced. The key is to actually be that presence. To speak, act, and move like someone who knows exactly how the movie ends. Like someone who's been here before and doesn't need to prove anything. That's the true Machiavellian elegance. Not barking orders, not chasing control, but radiating such quiet authority that control becomes unnecessary. It's given to you. And when she follows that energy, it doesn't feel like submission. It feels like safety. It feels like gravity, like something she decided on her own, because she did. You didn't take anything from her. You simply became the reference point for her internal state. You became the lighthouse in her emotional storm. That's when her attraction stops being voluntary. It starts to feel inevitable. Once you've mastered these three pillars, state provocation, emotional anchoring, and presence-based control, something fascinating happens. Her desire for you doesn't feel like something she chose. It feels like something ancient, alchemical. But it's not alchemy. It's architecture. Emotional architecture disguised as fate. And maybe now you're thinking, have I seen this before? Have I felt this from someone? That moment when you couldn't stop thinking about a person, even though nothing dramatic happened. That silent obsession, born from something you couldn't explain. Maybe someone used this on you. Maybe you used it on someone else, accidentally. That's the power of psychological design. And now that you see the blueprint, it's time to go one level deeper, into the world of hidden commands. The kind of influence that slips past the conscious mind and speaks directly to the subconscious. The most powerful language isn't the one that tells her what to do. It's the language that embeds itself in casual observations, in soft stories, in innocent comments. Words that look like conversation on the surface, but beneath it, they whisper instructions. You're not telling her to feel something. You're describing it as if it's already happening. And her mind, scanning for meaning, begins to accept it as reality. I remember a girl I met in my building. Let's call her Lena. Lena had this sharp energy. Always focused, always moving. Men tried flirting with her all the time. Confident men, smart men. She brushed them off with a polite smile and kept walking. But I didn't want her attention. I wanted her mind. I wanted to plant a feeling inside her that would grow roots before she realized it was there. One evening, we were both waiting for the elevator. She looked exhausted. I glanced at her and said, "You strike me as someone who's always in control." She gave a faint smile. I try to be. Right there I'd planted the first command. Hidden in a compliment, yes, but subtly reframing her identity around control. And in that frame, I was now the exception, the one she could release control with. We stepped into the elevator. She asked me what I did for work. I replied casually, "I help people take off their masks, let themselves be seen." It's funny how, once people feel safe, they start opening up without even realizing it. She nodded slowly. Her eyes stayed on me a bit longer than expected. That sentence was packed with invisible commands. Take off the mask, feel safe, start opening up. But I didn't say, "You should do this." I didn't even imply that she should. I spoke as if I was talking about people in general. Her conscious mind accepted the logic. Her subconscious began following the directive. That's how you hypnotize. Not with your eyes, not with fancy lines, but with words that slip under her defenses, with phrases that bypass logic and settle into emotion. And once they land, she doesn't even realize she's responding to a script that's already been written. We started running into each other more often. I never chased, never asked her out. I simply dropped seeds, quietly, consistently. Then one afternoon, she asked me if I wanted to grab a coffee. We sat, talked about books, psychology, nothing intense. At one point I said, "You know what's wild? Most people spend their whole lives waiting for permission to just let go. But once they do, they never want to go back." Another gentle nudge. Let go. Don't go back. I didn't tell her what to feel. I just described a reality that her subconscious could test drive. And that was the moment she started sharing things. Fears, pressure to be perfect, the need to stay strong all the time. I didn't press. I didn't probe. I just listened. Then I dropped the final anchor. You don't need to explain everything to feel understood. Sometimes when you feel safe around someone, you stop needing to control the moment. No command, just truth. Truth delivered with empathy, not manipulation. And that's when she touched my hand for the first time. Small gesture, huge impact, because it wasn't a conscious decision. It was a subconscious release. The body obeyed what the logic had not yet processed. That's the power of embedded language. And once you understand how to seed those phrases in everyday talk, phrases that look like nothing, but mean everything, you begin to influence not her behavior, but her inner world. You don't say, "Feel attracted to me." You say, "Isn't it strange how sometimes we meet someone and feel like we've known them for years?" Her mind takes over the rest. You don't say, "Trust me." You say, "Funny how safe you can feel around someone without even realizing why." And suddenly she does. Because feelings last longer than thoughts. And words, when delivered with intention masked as indifference, don't just land, they echo. There's a technique most people have never even thought about. It doesn't rely on emotion alone. It distorts her sense of time, bending the present moment until it feels like part of something eternal. A shared story that didn't begin with you and won't end when she walks away. This is what I call the temporal loop. It's not magic, it's cognitive architecture. And once you master it, you don't just become memorable, you become unforgettable. It starts by planting a thought, but not in the now. You fold it into the past or the future. You wrap it in nostalgia, déjà vu, or destiny. She doesn't question it, because it doesn't feel like suggestion. It feels like memory. I remember being at a rooftop party, talking to a girl who had her guard up like a fortress. Not in an aggressive way, but like someone used to analyzing others, never being swept away herself. She wasn't cold. She was composed, emotionally armored. I didn't try to impress her. I didn't joke. I didn't flirt. I waited, and then I said softly, "Isn't it strange how some conversations feel like déjà vu? Like you've just met someone, but something inside makes it feel like it's already happened, and you can't even explain why." She blinked, tilted her head slightly. That pause, that moment, is when the brain begins to self-scan. Have I felt this before? if she's enjoying the moment. If she feels calm or curious, her mind connects those feelings to something ancient. A sense of familiarity is born. Comfort, connection, the illusion of history. Suddenly, you're not a stranger. You're a returning presence. That's the temporal hook. You didn't say, "This is meaningful." You described a scenario that makes her question whether it already is. And the more she thinks about it, the deeper the belief embeds itself. This isn't manipulation, it's suggestion. It's narrative engineering. From there, you stretch time forward. She asks what kind of relationship you're looking for. You smile and say, "I think the best kind is the one where, one moment, you're just talking, and the next, you feel like you've known the person for years, and when you look back, you can't even figure out when it shifted. It just feels like it was always there." And what happens in her brain now is subtle but profound. She starts checking the present for signs that it's already happening. That's the brilliance of emotional foresight. You're not predicting the future. You're planting it. You're bending her perception of the now by anchoring it to an imagined then. She starts to search for alignment, not because you told her to, but because her mind wants coherence. It wants the story to make sense. And if she finds even one shred of emotional resonance in the present moment, one laugh, one look, 1 second of safety, her brain locks the loop. You just became a memory she hasn't lived through yet. And memories that feel inevitable are the hardest to forget. Texting works too. Late at night, instead of saying, "Good night," you write, "Imagine one day we look back and laugh at how weird our first conversations were. And we both remember this exact night." What did you just do? You pulled the future into the present. You made her imagine still knowing you, still talking to you, still remembering you. And her brain, the same one that can't tell the difference between imagined emotion and real experience, begins treating that projection as partially real. You just made yourself part of her long-term memory before you've even earned it. Once that seed is planted, everything else you say becomes part of the narrative she's unconsciously building around you. And the best part? You don't need to chase her, prove yourself, or outshine anyone else. She's not comparing you to other men. She's comparing moments. And the moment with you feels timeless. So how do you use all this in real life? You don't force it. You don't say, "Let's create a story." No, that kills it. You tell little stories, make quiet observations. You talk, almost absent-mindedly, about how weird time is when you really connect with someone. Let her mind do the rest. Let her wander, because the more her thoughts drift, the more they return to you. Not as an option, as a reference point. And the deeper this loop goes, the less she sees it as a decision. It becomes destiny. An echo from before. A pull toward something she doesn't even want to explain. That's when you know she's not thinking anymore. She's feeling. And feelings don't disappear like logic. They linger. They attach. They loop. That's the hook. And that's the part most men never figure out. Because they chase behavior, not emotion. They try to convince, not to anchor. But those who understand this, those who speak softly, observe deeply, and design with intention, play a different game. A silent game. One where control is never declared, but always present. And now, you see the whole system. First, you provoke the emotion. Any emotion. Curiosity, excitement, even confusion. Just stir her internal waters. Then you anchor it to yourself with quiet presence, subtle language, and non-reaction. Next, you guide her emotional state not by force, but by staying grounded while she feels unsteady. And finally, you distort time by seeding memories into the past and projecting shared futures forward. All of this without asking her for a thing. You don't persuade, you don't push, you don't react. You let her feel more and more while you stay exactly where you are, unmoved, unbothered, immovably present. That's implicit control, and that's why it works. It's not about conquest. It's not cartoonish manipulation. It's the understanding of one eternal truth. Emotions drive people to follow, and stability makes them stay. If you've made it this far, you already know more than most men ever will. But I want you to do one last thing. Think of a time you couldn't stop thinking about someone, and ask yourself why. Was it their looks, their charm, their logic? Or was it the way they made you feel? The way time bent around them? The way silence felt full in their presence? That's what you're becoming now, a presence, a moment that expands beyond time. And if you're truly ready to master this, leave one piece of advice in the comments, something you learned the hard way, a technique you stumbled on, a feeling you once triggered in someone without even meaning to. Because this is the dark side, and only those who've been in the shadows understand the quiet power that lives there. The video could have ended a while ago. You already know the strategy. But I want to leave you with a final twist, something clever, slightly twisted, and devastatingly effective. It's simple. It's called the temporal tether, and it works like this. You describe a memory that hasn't happened yet, but you do it with such emotional clarity that it feels real. And the moment you do, her mind treats it as a fragment of lived experience, a ghost of a future already written. That's how obsession is born, not from what you say, but from what she begins to remember that never actually happened. You say something like, "It's funny, I can already picture us sitting somewhere months from now talking about how weird it was the first time we met, like we both knew it was going to mean something, but we didn't say it out loud." And there it is. You've created a moment she'll look for in the present, a timeline she wants to match, a version of the future she starts rooting for. She begins to watch herself as if she's already in the story, and that shift from actor to observer is what locks it all in. Now she's not just feeling something, she's watching herself feel it. She's reliving it before it happens. And once that happens, there's no escaping it. You're not a person anymore, you're a thread in her timeline, a character in her narrative, a chapter that never needed to be earned, because it always felt like it was supposed to be there. This is the end of the beginning, and what you do with it is up to you.